UK inbound. We look at supporting those businesses involved in inbound tourism into the UK. Part of the Visitor Economies Advisory Council Terms of Reference allows the Council themselves to stand up relevant working groups to find solutions to priority challenges and opportunities, and that's what we did. So I'm going to talk in a minute, but just before I do, I thought it was really important just to draw your attention, and hopefully it will be very obvious to you as well, but the interlinkages between each and every one of these working groups. We've obviously heard from Sam around the investment group and why it's such a priority, or it needs to be a priority sector for both private sector and public sector investment. But the other working groups, and the one that I chair at the moment, is looking at the international competitiveness. We'll hear from Kate in a minute, and that's looking very much around the labour and the skills and the careers area to support those 50 million visitors that the UK is hoping to attract by 2030. But obviously there's capacity issues, and again we heard from Sam regarding that, and how do we get that economic benefit across the whole of the United Kingdom from those 50 million visitors that will be coming by 2030 as well. So hopefully you'll hear across all of us that there are those interlinkages between each of our groups. So on to my group quickly. When established, I was very, very keen that we were able to have a group that was representative of every single touch point that a customer has when they visit the United Kingdom. So we've got quite a wide representation on our group, and just to run through just briefly, because I think it's important that you understand, where those touch points are, but we've got airline represented through Sean at British Airways, we've got airports with Ken at Manchester Airport Group, we've got train transportation through Jodie at the train line. We have a DMC, one of my DMCs in membership, from Angela Shanley Associates. We also have Fiona McConaughey from Booking.com. So within those two alone, we have 80% of all the visitors that come to the UK are using intermediaries. We have Irene Hayes from the travel agency, both in terms of the inbound, but also bringing some of that expertise from outbound to play. We have the cruise market, the fastest growing part of the fastest growing industry in the world. We have hotels represented by Genevieve from Interconti Hotels. We've got Bernard from Alva, who's also bringing his culture hat to bring kind of attractions and culture to the piece. We've got regional representation through Catherine Davis, the Chief Executive of Visit West, who can't be here today, but she's bringing that kind of regional and that destination perspective. We're embedding in very much retail as such a key part of the visitor experience, so we have Tom Atherin from Fortnums and Masons on there. We're hoping to engage UK Sport onto the council, onto the working group. We don't have them quite yet, but we do have the Premier League represented through Katie from the Premier League as well. We are embedding very much the three kind of horizontals that we have in terms of that end-to-end customer experience. We'll see a little bit more of that later on this afternoon. And also the importance of small and medium enterprises, but also business visits and events. So on my group, I'm delighted to have Jeremy from Excel, but also to have Michael from Events UK. And that's supported ably by the kind of overarching view that Richard from the Tourism Alliance brings to the working group, as well as Rachel Farrington from Visit Britain's policy side, and all supported, of course, by colleagues and officials from DCMS. So you can see quite a wide representation, but what's important is each of those customer points as well. We've had our first meeting, and we signed off the terms of reference, which is around identification of barriers, not necessarily jumping straight to solutions, but really trying to find out what some of those challenges are to achieving that 50 million. Looking at global best practice and who's doing what well, and then coming up with some proposals that we hope to do as we work our way towards the summer as well. We have, at the first meeting, we signed off a commission for some of the research. Timings are less than opportune. I actually received that research tomorrow evening, so apologies that I can't share any of that with you today. But the research has really been charged at looking at some of these macro issues, elements that may affect tourism both within the time frame of the strategy, but also slightly longer term as well. So we're looking at, considerations of how we're going to reach that 50 million target. The story of inbound is a story of success, but how did we get here and where is here? We're going to be looking at the competitive landscape, because I think that everyone will recognise, particularly on the inbound side, that we have recovered well but other countries have recovered better than us. And what are they doing in order to be able to receive the greater tourism receipts than we're able to do at the moment? Domestic and outbound, how they work together, but also some of the challenges that they also bring. The motivations, why people want to come here, and how that stacks up against kind of customer expectations and the product and experiences that we're able to offer. The regional opportunities and which markets offer the most potential. And of course, there's that balance between the value proposition, where we may be attracting markets which are more heavily swayed towards London, as against the volume markets, which maybe offers us some more of the regional opportunity as well. Accommodation, have we got what we need? Have we actually got the capacity to manage these people? Demographics, constantly changing overseas, the linkages to Europe, perhaps not what they were at one point, and how that might affect inbound, and indeed demographics in terms of the supply side as well. With an ageing population, how does the fact that our sector is particularly overpopulated by youngsters within it, how is that going to work in terms of demographic changes within the UK? And as I say, potential growth markets, which are the ones that we need to be able to fulfil that, both that value and that volume ambition that we have. So the next steps is to have a look at the research, circulate that research. We have the next meeting on the 23rd of April. Hopefully, part of the idea behind the research was really to qualify what we already know, but it was also to help us understand the gaps in our knowledge, so that if we need to commission some further research into some of these areas, the group will be able to point us in that direction as well. And as I say, the overarching aim is to get some proposals out pre-summer. May not necessarily be leaping straight away to conclusions and proposals, but as I say, really trying to identify what some of the significant challenges are to enable us to be able to reach that 50 million target. I'm going to pass over to Kate now, I think, who's going to give us the next bit on her working group.
Thank you, Joss. We had a debate. Sarah said I should be the meat. I said I should be the jam, but probably the protein in the sandwich. And I think it's about making sure that we do have all of those links between the working groups that we've got. And really the people side is the bit that does get you the links between how are we attracting people in, what are we doing to keep more people in the country, how are we going to spread them around. It's about our people, because at heart we are a people industry, and whatever happens with AI and technology, people are going to be key to delivering our value-added service and giving us our USP in the UK as to why people should come to Britain rather than going elsewhere. Critically as well, people at the heart of delivery of the ambition for the 50 million visitors, 10 million extra visitors a year, we need to be able to meet that demand. So my working group has the exam question: if we meet that ambition, if we deliver at that target, what are the barriers that are standing in our way that would prevent us from doing that? What are the opportunities for us to do that? And it's also then making sure that it's at the heart of the delivery of the wider government objectives around the industrial strategy, placemaking, and spreading economic prosperity around the regions, because tourism and the wider visitor economy is very much jobs for everyone, everywhere, at every level, and where you map the areas of highest economic inactivity, those are the areas where there is the greatest potential for tourism and visitor economy jobs. And then when we look at that and we upskill and create those jobs and roles for our people, that's how we spread economic prosperity around. It's not just about getting our visitors out to the regions, it's also making sure that we don't export our brightest and our best young people from the regions to areas of economic density and those economically productive sectors of the economy that the industrial strategy looks at. If you look at the industrial strategy more broadly, 70% of the jobs are outside those 8 growth areas, and 50% of the economic activity and jobs is outside of those key segments of the country, key regions of the country, and we are the ones that fill the gap in between that and make sense of it. So our group has met very rapidly, very broad group. I won't go through all the details and names, but it mirrors what Joss was saying. Really like to pay tribute to Richard at the Tourism Alliance and Luke at APTA, who've worked with my team at UK Hospitality to be able to do some of that initial work and pull that together. What we did when we came together as a group, we've had 2 strategic group meetings, and then we've had several working group meetings underneath that. And picked up 3 key areas that we worked on as working streams. One is data and research and doing a lot of the mapping. The second then is about supporting the government's ambition to reduce economic activity, how we can play our part in that, notwithstanding the headwinds that we talked about earlier. The third is then about education and skills, upskilling our young people and upskilling our workforce to make sure that they have a career and that we are a career of choice. And then the longer term activity that we will be looking at is about that career, perception of the industry. That came through loud and clear in all three of the work strands that we've got, and whichever bit of the visitor economy you sit in, perception of our sector, perception of our work and our roles. We talk about jobs, we need to talk about careers. How do we address that? So, very rapid canter through the areas that we're working on. First of all, data and research. And thank you, Sam, for touching on our socially productive research that UK Hospitality published, because that is the answer to labour productivity challenge that the industrial strategy sets. We add social value wherever we go as a big footprint. So we've collated that. We've collated a lot of existing research that is out there, as I say, in the ABTA World Tourism Alliance, transport and infrastructure, to be able to look at developing a robust human capital and skills strategy. You need good data. So a collation of what is out there as research to show what we do and how important we are. Labour and skills gap analysis and SWOT analysis of what is missing and where the opportunities are, and future mapping where we can look at skills for the future. Then two granular pieces of work that are underway at present. The data and research underpins that, but two we're looking at today in the afternoon sessions. One is, how do we get Britain working and keep Britain working? How can we as a sector address the economic inactivity challenge and map that across? And then secondly, once we get people in, how do we develop them and upskill them and add to that perception of it being a career of choice and a skill? So two work streams that we're looking at, and again, there's a lot of collation of existing good work that is already in train, pilot projects that are in train, so we've got some low-hanging fruit that we can come back to ministers with to be able to say, if you roll out these areas across the visitor economy, some that are just in tourism, some that are in business events, some that are in transport, but if we roll them out across the business, across the entire visitor economy strategy, we could have a big impact. Two in particular, the DWP work that has been going on sector-based work academies, which is particularly critical about SMEs and getting SMEs through into that job centre recruitment, pull people in, that big funnel of sucking people in, getting them work ready, getting them job ready. Second is around a digital skills pilot that we've been taking forward, that it looks at common induction standards, which is really critical for our welcome, which is the second strand, as Joss said, of the horizontals that cut across all of these working groups. How do we get a really good welcome, and how do we train people and quantify the common transferable skills that make them good workers wherever they go and work in the economy? And that has to be our dual ambition. And then secondly, on the upskilling route, work to make sure we're really ready for foundational apprenticeships, which make the link between labour and activity and swaps. Foundational apprenticeships fill the gap. You can then show that we're mapping towards aspirational higher level apprenticeships, so that we're ready when that apprenticeship levy reforms come through.